Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Last year, the Agricultural Global Practice and the Jobs Group organized a conference on the future of work in agriculture. The global jobs challenge is huge, and agriculture has traditionally been an important employer. So what's the role of agriculture moving forward in helping address the global jobs challenge? We know that as countries develop, the role of agriculture in employment actually goes down. But we have been saying that many new jobs are also generated off the farm in the agricultural chains, as can be seen on this graph from James Thurlow of Whitby, where he looks at the share of employment in agriculture on farm, as well as off farm in the agri-food system, the green bars and the orange bars. And we see it indeed that actually for the very high income countries on the top, that the share of employment in off farm agri-food system is even larger than on the farm. But let's not be fooled either. We can also see that as we move from low income to high income status, that many jobs on the farms are being lost, and that the jobs generated off the farm in the food chains are not sufficient to compensate. So the real question, the real background historically, what we have observed is a transition from many low-paying jobs on farm to fewer, but better-paying jobs on the farm, as well increasingly also off the farm. This is the overall background within which we need to consider the future of work in agri-food. And the question is how to do this in a way, how to make this transition so that it's as smooth as possible, and that we make maximum use of the potential of agri-food systems to generate employment. Now, in the past couple of years, two new forces have come into play: digitization, digital revolution, and more recently also deglobalization. What does that mean for jobs in the developed world? First, what we see is that in this structural transformation, one actually moves from agricultural surplus labor, that the labor force is in surplus, agricultural labor force is in surplus, to a situation where there's actually a shortage of agriculture. Now, with growing anti-migrant sentiment, as well as new technologies which actually enable robotization, automation, which actually enable to replace these laborers, these low-skilled laborers, less and less demand there will be less and less demand for migrant labor to fill this shortage. COVID is reinforcing digitization. COVID is also reinforcing deglobalization, both on the migration side, but also by reducing trade and more reliance, reshoring production. So as a result, there may be a premature closing of external markets for developing countries, both for their labors as well as for their goods. And so it challenges the incentives, the demand for goods coming from developing countries. This technological revolution, these digital technologies, also open up a lot of new opportunities to increase labor productivity in developing countries. And as a result, they may actually accelerate that transition. They may help that transition in a positive way. The three blocks, which are basically a bit out of our comfort zone. We need integrated approaches. The organizational solution of choice these days is the inclusive value chain development, and that's rightly so. But there are many thorny questions which remains. How to do this requires an integrated approach. We're often not well organized to do that. Secondly, in order to tackle the deglobalization and the digitization, for deglobalization, one could rely more on regional trade, as is starting to happen a little bit in Africa, but a long way to go. To make maximum use of digitization, we need to close that digital divide. We need digital skills and infrastructure, digital infrastructure. And we're working on that. We also need antitrust regulation. We need to prevent market concentration, which often comes along with digitization. All of this requires cross-sectoral collaboration, cross-GP collaboration, much more than we do already. Also not an easy thing to do. And then finally, we also need to expand in another area. We are talking a lot about repurposing agricultural policies. Now, in order to do that, we also need why they came to exist to begin with. And often this was in response to rising divides, rising rural-urban divides, which came along with the structural transformation. So we need better social insurance systems to tackle this, to help, to soften this transition. where they lay out systems which are, and actually the rapid expansion of social assistance during the COVID-19 crisis is also an interesting platform to build. So with these three entry points, none of them easy, we believe that we can better transition to fewer but better paying jobs on, increasingly also off the farm, and contribute to the global jobs challenge. Thank you very much.